Hey friend, Ryan Wakefield here, and this is your social media tip of the week. Today we're talking about social media policies for your church. Now this is something that's probably on your to-do list. Let me just say right here in the beginning that we've done a lot of the hard work for you. If you go to socialchurch.co and check out this article, we've got a whole bunch of different examples that you can look at from other churches, denominations, policy resources and tools, but we also have a template that is done for you. You can just put your name and email there, and we will email you a template. It's going to have a Word document and a PDF of a full-blown policy that you can use as a starter for your church. Now, the template is a little bit overwhelming. It's designed intentionally that way. The idea is give you the best of everything that we've seen around, and then you can pare it down for what makes sense, what's applicable for your church. So the goal is to give you everything in one document to save you time in that to-do list, and you can have it checked off by this week. Now, let me just say this, because I don't love talking about policies. You know, if you've worked in the medical field, you've probably had some sort of HIPAA training, or every field kind of has their training, and a lot of times we don't love that type of stuff, but it's also very important. So a couple thoughts. One is this should be something that you're training your team on. So social media, if you don't want to call it a policy, maybe call it guidelines or tips. My recommendation would be once a year, your team needs to get together. You need to cover your social media policy, but also give your team, and this could include staff if you're lucky enough to have it, team members, interns, board members, volunteers, key people in your team, and get them together, go over your policy, but then also give them tips, what they should be doing, how they can help your church reach your vision and mission through social media. So you could do that. If you did that once a year, you could cover the kind of the core components of what not to do, but then more importantly, maybe you could cover how we can all use social media to help the vision of the church advance. So that could be really impactful for your church. I think it's a lot of one area that a lot of churches really don't ever talk about and don't cover, and it could be an important one. Also, when it comes to your social media policy, here are some key components I think it needs to have to be a part of and you'll see these throughout the template. One is communication guidelines. So some ideas of just some guiding principles for should your team be friending minors on social media? What about communication on social media platforms through the internet? Again, with youth, with kids. So I think you're going to want to cover that topic. Any sort of communication with local media. This is getting into like the public relations. So if somebody comes to an intern and wants to ask them, hey, to get a quote for a local newspaper article that's coming out soon, have you trained them on what they should say, or maybe more importantly, what they should not say, what they should do in those type of situations. Confidential information. This would be number 2. You make sure that people are aware that they're not, supposed to be sharing medical information or personal information. If you have something that was spoken privately to a pastor, volunteer, or maybe medical information. I know one year at youth camp, we had lightning strike, and we had to take students to the hospital just to get them checked out. Nobody was seriously injured. But, if you're putting something like that on social media, you got to be careful, what you're putting and what you're not putting. Privacy and private information is really crucial. So confidential information, communication guidelines, covering copyrights. So when not to use certain things that could be, have copyright infringement, issues around them, music and other videos, making sure that you're not using that as your own if you want to link to it, and just touching on some of those issues as well to cover. A lot of this kind of covers the church. Make sure, you're hopefully avoiding any sort of legal issues. And then the fourth one, and there's a lot more topics covered, but I think just to get your idea around why is this so important, these 4 topics, the fourth one being your brand, your image, your core values, making sure that that's in there, that when you're talking about on social media, some of those guidelines that whoever is representing, if they're representing your church, whether officially or unofficially, that it's within the context of your core values, what's really important to you, so they're not misrepresenting your brand, your vision, your mission on social media. That could be really important. So those are the 4 main things I would say, man, those are big things that needs to be covered at your church. And again, do you have one? Check out the template and make sure you're doing a training at least yearly on your policies, and then tips for your team on how to use social media to accomplish your mission. I'm curious, does your church have an updated social media policy? Yes, no, and again, if you're going to say no, or yeah, we did one 5 years ago, take a look at our template and update your social media policies. I think you'll be like, man, that's really good. It's something that a lot of you probably have on your to-do list. You can say, hey, thanks Social Church, you guys took care of it, saved me a ton of time. So that's this week's tip of the week. God bless.